Yeah, good morning. Yeah. So, what is enum and how these enums are used? Right. Just one important. Already, you know, in variables, what is difference between var, let, and const? So, what is const? Const. Some points already we discussed. Right. Const means it will not allow to assign, only initialization. That means at the time of allocating memory there must be some value. So and after the value is configured, you cannot assign anything into it, that is what actually const. So enum is nothing but, so enum is, it is a collection, of constants. Enum is a collection of constants. Sometimes people talk about enums as a collection of numeric constants, which is not correct, because sometimes people give you a definition like enum is a collection of numeric constants, number constants. But it is not true. Enum is not a collection of only number constants. Enum is a collection of constants, and constants, it includes number, string, and boolean, expression. Number, string, and expression. That means enum can handle only these three types. Enum can handle only these three types. So that is the number type, string type, and an expression. So enum is a collection of constants. These constants are either number constants, string constants, or expression. What is the purpose, how it is used? We will see one simple example. Actually, I will give one small real world scenario, generally where we use this. Later in Angular, you will come across with that. For example, you have to create a project. So you are creating a project, and in this project, we want to use some error codes, and in this project we want to use some HTTP methods. Error codes usually they are used to show the status of every task performed. Like, 200 means okay, 404 means not found. All such things are error codes. At the time of allocating memory for your project, these error codes are loaded into memory. They will be keep tracking activities performed in the application, and if anything went wrong or if anything completed, then these status codes are shown. These status codes are used to identify the task, whether it is not found, is it completed, is it waiting. All such options are managed by error codes. HTTP methods, they perform operations like get, fetching the data. They perform operations like post. These must be initialized at the time of loading the project into memory. Once it is loaded, these must be ready to handle all the interactions. And these must have some standard functionality which cannot be modified. These must have some stable functionality which cannot be modified. That means at the time of loading into memory, we will define a functionality and they will work with the same functionality up to the end of application. That means once the functionality is defined, once the values are defined, they cannot change. They cannot be modified. You cannot override those functionalities. Then we call these as constants. That means we keep them. Not only methods, we have concepts like routing. Later you will learn in Angular. These require some special values. Those values are defined at the time of starting the application. And once the application starts and they are initialized in the memory, they cannot be changed. They have to use it in the same way. In that case, these all are actually constants. These are all constants. And to create a collection of constants, generally in JavaScript, how you can create a collection of constants? In JavaScript, how you can create such collection of constants? I need some constants, set of constants which cannot be changed. Not one, a collection of constants which cannot be changed. Then in JavaScript, how do you create a collection of constants? It may be a tricky question, but it is very simple point. How you will create a collection of constants? No idea. It's very simple, na? You create a constants values. It is an array type. That means these values are all what type? Constants. Constants means they must be initialized with an value. And once you initialize it with the value, they cannot be changed. They cannot be changed. In JavaScript, you define the collection of constants. So by using this technique, that is the array of constants. Now the same we can define here we can define here as enum. Enum is a collection of constants. And already I hope you learned in, I will give you some questions here is how to configure a collection of constants in JavaScript. So by using array, right? Constant array, by using a constant array. So we have to define a constant and values. So is an array type, that is an constant array. That is the basic thing you learned in JavaScript, right? Now the question here is how you create, what is difference between constant and read only. Constant and read only. Constant and read only, once initialized, you cannot change. Then what is difference? You have seen read only also while working with contracts. What is difference between constant and read only? Sometimes people unknowingly call constant as read only. Constant is not read only. Constant is different. Read only is different. What is difference between constant and read only? Actually, constant and read only difference is nothing but generally constant is about initialization of memory with the value. Constant is about initialization of memory with value. You are initializing memory, and at the time of initializing there must be value. There must be value. That is about initialization of memory. And read only is about change in value, is about change in value. It is not about initializing memory. Read only is not about initializing memory. So read only is about only change in the value. Change in the value. So that means read only is not related to memory. Read only is related to the behavior of value. Behavior of value. And constant is not about the behavior of value. Constant is about the behavior of memory. A constant memory will not allow to assign any value. A read only will not allow to change the value. So read only is about value and constant is about memory. So it is completely different. That means constant is not about making your value read only. Constant is about allocating memory in such a way that it must have a value. And after having the value, it will not allow to assign another value. That means once the value is initialized, you cannot assign any value. That is the nature of memory. Read only is not the nature of memory. Read only is the nature of value. So the value cannot be changed and the memory cannot be changed. So constant is about memory and read only is about the value. And both are not same. Both are not same. Both may behave like same, but actually both are not same. Memory allocation is different and changing value is different. Read only is about value and constant is about memory. And enum is nothing but, so enum can configure a collection of constants, a collection of constants. Enum can configure a collection of constants. So how you can define syntactically enum and any name, and you can configure the constant, here reference, and here we need to define a value. And in order to access, so we have to use the name and reference. So many points are there. We will see one by one here how they work actually. So enum can configure a collection of constants, And remember, the constant can be a number or a string or an expression. Only 3 types of constants are allowed. So for example, see here, we are creating enum and enum name enumeration, right? Enumeration name. Enumeration name I will give as HTTP verbs. And in this enum, I am defining HTTP verbs. We have like get, and in that I stored some 101. Next, post, in that some 102, like this we are defining. Like we have put. So if I am not initializing any value into it, that means constant requires initialization of value, mandatory. Every constant must be initialized with values, So here, these are the constant names, get, post, put. These are the constant names, and these are the values stored inside. That means get contains 101, post contains 102, like this. Now, very important here is, so if you are creating an enum, of numbers, they can implement the values which are not initialized. Automatically, if you are creating an enum of numbers, they can implement value which are not initialized. That means now actually here put is not initialized with value, but automatically now put value is 103. It is 103. That means you haven't initialized any value. By default, its value is 103. That means based on the previous value, it will increment by 1 and the put value will be 103 now. Its value will be 103. That means even you don't initialize any value, it will automatically initialize the value based on the previous. And this is only for numeric enums, number enums, only for numeric enums. That means now I am defining here console.log. So here I am defining, suppose put and the value. How to access enum? HTTP verbs enum name and enum reference. What is it? Put. Under that, whatever the value is stored, it will return. Actually, the value is not initialized. If the value is not initialized, then let's run this and see. tsc index.ts and node index.js, and it will show that value. That means automatically it is initialized with a value. Automatically it is initialized with a value if the value is not initialized. For example, there is a value above delete and which is not initialized with value. That means if there is no previous value. So first let me give you this one. I will copy this and I will put here example. This is automatic. It will be set with how much? 103. It will set with 103. Now here, if you define here a delete and not initialize, that means if there is no previous value, right? If there is no previous value, then the default value is 0. The default value is 0. If there is no previous value, then the default value will be 0. That means what will be the value of delete? So this is put. So console.log, and here we are using delete, and here we have HTTP verbs and delete, and there is no previous value and you haven't initialized any value. If you haven't initialized any value, then automatically it will take 0 as value. That means you can see delete is 0 and put is 103. And if you remember, you can initialize any value into it. It's not that the value must be a sequence value. It's not that it must be a sequence value. You can initialize any value into it. For example, so post I defined as some 502 or 501, and automatically now put value will change to 502. It will automatically change. If there is a value in between, like patch, there is a value in between. Now its value will be 102 because of the previous value. Based on the previous value, it will increment and it will set up the value. If there is no value defined, so it will be 0. If you have configured anything in between, so its value will be based on the previous. Completely depends on the previous. Console.log, and here we have an option like patch is equal to whatever the value http verbs.patch. That is how we define. So it is going to display those two. You see, that's how it is going to handle them. It is 502, it is 0, and it is patch. I am not printing in order. I am randomly printing the values, right? The values depend on their occurrence and based on the previous values. So what is the point here is, because they are a collection of constants and constants needs a value to be initialized. And if you don't initialize a value, automatically they will initialize the value. And they will not allow to assign any value. For example, HTTP verbs, and into the delete, you want to store some value, it will not allow. Because constants will not allow to assign. They will not allow to assign. Once at the time of initialization, what values you given, the same values we have to use. So if you are looking for some values to be initialized for application and to be used in the same way across the application, then you can configure with a collection of enums, constants, that is enum, right? Now, this point I will give you here. So here, some more options, syntax I will give here. This is another one. And one more important, enum can have a collection of string constants. Enum can have a collection of string constants, but they cannot have auto implementation. They cannot have auto implementation. That means every string enum must be initialized. Every string enum must be initialized with a value. It must be initialized with a value. That means enum can be a string. It can be a string, but it cannot have auto implementation. Auto implementation is only for numbers. Only for numeric enums you can have auto implementation. That means it cannot be for string type. Every string must be initialized. For example, here I am writing some enum here. Suppose here I am writing some enums, right? Just put some string type like, for example, I am using get. This is fetch data. That is a string value stored inside it. We have post. So this is submit data. Now we have some other option, delete, and I am not initializing. So delete, I am not initializing, then it shows error. So it shows an error. It shows error. So that means you cannot leave it empty. You cannot leave it empty. So that means initialization is compulsory if we have string types. If we have string type. But very important. So that means I will copy this here. So you can have constants syntactically. So that means this delete is invalid. But very important you need to know is enum supports a collection of various types of constants. Various types of constants, not similar, various types of constants. Hence every constant defined every constant defined at first level is initialized with 0. Is initialized with 0. That means even it is a string constants. Remember, there is nothing like string constants or number constants. It is a collection of constants. You can have string or number or both combination. You can see here, you can see in the constants, I am writing this delete above. I am writing this delete above, then it is okay, no problem. Why? Because at first level, if you don't define any initialization, then automatically it will implement 0. The first level value is always 0, even it is a string or a number. It is nothing like string constants. We should not say that collection of string constants, because constants, there is no restriction for similar type. There is no restriction for similar type. We can store various types of values. But if you are dealing with string constants, the next level implementation is not possible. For example, this is 0. You can see that. So console.log, I am using delete, and delete value, I will put http verbs.delete. We can display the value and you can see it is printing that value. that is printing 0. You can have a combination of string and number. But see here, suppose I am giving some patch. I am giving some patch. It is unable to handle. Because if there is a value previously string, it cannot have auto implementation. But for example, we have patch as 0. So patch as suppose 102. And after that, we have put not initializer. It's okay, it can take. Why? Because auto implementation cannot happen only if there is a previous string. If the previous is number, then it can have implementation automatically. That means what is the put value now? It is 103. 103. So you can have a combination. So you cannot, that means, so auto implementation of value cannot happen if the previous value type is string. If the previous value type is string, that is only the point. If the previous value is number, it can automatically have. And you can have various types of constants. It can be number, it can be string. Syntactically, I will give you this program. Here you are having both of them. We have a number constant, we have a string constant. We can use a combination of both constants. Another important is enum. Enum supports expression. Enum supports expression. Enum supports expression. Enum supports an expression also. Not only just constant, it supports an expression. Now, very important is enum supports expression, but very important is expression. Expression in enum cannot return Boolean. Expression in enum cannot return Boolean. That means enum can have expressions can have expressions that can return string or number only. Enum can have expressions that can return string and number only. Enum cannot have an expression that can return Boolean. That means you can have any expression, but not Boolean type. Enum will not support any Boolean. If anybody asks a question like, why Boolean not supported? At experience level, these kind of questions will be there. At experience level, questions will be like not related to the topic. The questions will be related to architecture of the topic. That means this is the nature of enum. If you tell this is the nature of enum, for experience level, they ask why it is having that nature. For a fresher, they will ask what is its nature. For experienced people, they ask why it is having that nature. These are the two types of questions. Remember, at experience level, all architectural based questions only asked. Concept oriented questions are never asked for experienced people until or unless they think that you are not good in architecture. Then to test at least you have concept knowledge or not, they will ask. Otherwise, majority of experienced people questions will be architecture based. That means why this, why not this? That is like questions will be always. So why Boolean is not supported? What do you think? Why Boolean not supported? What do you think? No one need to teach, but you can just think about that why it is not supported. What is the nature of enum? What is the nature of enum? Constants, na? What is the nature of Boolean? Boolean will change according to situation. No? On true, false, right? That means constants cannot change its values. Understood the point? Why constant cannot be Boolean? Means here constant cannot be Boolean. Because constant cannot assign any another value, but Boolean needs to change its value. Boolean needs to change value. On true, one value. On false, another value. It cannot be always only true. It cannot be always only false. That is the reason Booleans are not supported. That means Boolean are mutable, right? Boolean are mutable. And enum needs only immutable. Enum needs only immutable. Booleans are mutable and enum needs only immutable, right? So Booleans are mutable, they can change. So technically Booleans have to change. Decision making, na? Booleans always true and false situation wise. Enum cannot have a Boolean. Suppose you see in the enum, so I given as yes is equal to true. I am writing a Boolean. It's not allowed. It will not allow this Boolean. This is not allowed. So that means computed values are not permitted because these values are considered as computed values because they can change according to situation. They are meant for changing according to situation. That is the reason it is not supported. So you can write expressions. You can see, you can have expression. For example, so here I defined x equal to 10 and y equal to 20 and z is equal to x plus y. You can have an expression. Enum supports expression. So, but that expression must return a number or that expression must return a string. You cannot have x greater than 0, greater than y, because this is going to return a Boolean and Booleans are not allowed. It can, that means all operators are not allowed. All expressions are not allowed. In sometimes in interviews, this question also asked. They ask like which operator is allowed, which operator is allowed in enum. So which operator is allowed in enum? That is also asked as a question. That means which operator is allowed as enum? Any operator that returns number or string. So if they ask you to specifically tell me what kind of operators not supported, that means you can say greater than, less than, greater than or equal. All these are not supported. Why? Because they are all decision making. They are all Boolean type, right? So any operator that returns number and string, they are allowed. Now you have that expression here. Now you can see I am accessing x plus y. I am trying to access z, and here I said addition, and it is going to return that here. It is going to return that. So we can have various types of values. We can have various types of values, an expression, anything we can configure. So various types of values, but limited to only number, string, and expression. We can have only these, right? Now, very important, after this expression, if any another value comes, so a, if any another value comes, what will be the value of this a? After expression, if any value comes, what will be the value of this a? That means the value of a will be the value of the result returned by the expression above. So here, suppose I am using a value, right? A is equal to, that means expression is above, and above expression is returning some value, right? That means it is having a value. It will be 31. It will be 31. Because see, even you don't use this expression, automatically it uses internally. When it uses internally, so according to this expression, the result of the z is 30. And obviously this value will be 31. That's a very common thing. That means now can we have any expression value to be implemented? This is an example here. So this is valid, and it is a equal to 30. So it 31, it can implement that based on the expression. So if anyone asks, can we have any value without initialization after expression? So that means, can enum, another question, can enum define any value without initialization after expression? It can. Yes, it can. So enum can define any value without initialization after the expression. That is what it can do, right? So that is the collection of constants and how we can handle and use the constants. Actually, in many interviews, one more question asked related to enum. And of course, in many languages also where enum is there, this question is common. Actually, they ask what is reverse mapping of enum, or sometimes some technologies call as reverse lookup. Reverse lookup. What is reverse mapping of enum or reverse lookup? Means actually majority of all object-oriented programming technologies have these enums, enumeration. Java, .NET, all these have enums. In that, you usually have a concept called reverse mapping of enum. Anybody you learned? What do you think? What is reverse mapping of enum? In your Java, .NET, any technologies you learned? Any idea? Reverse mapping is, it is the process of accessing the reference by using value. Generally, we access the value by using reference. We can access the reference by using value, which is called as reverse lookup. That means we can access by using value. What you can access? Reference. For example, suppose we have enum status codes, and here we have 40 not found, and it is 404. Now generally what happens here is we access console.log status codes dot not found, it will return 404. It will return 404. That means it will return the value. Now generally console.log, so we have status codes of 404. Like this we can configure. This will return not found. This will return not found. That means based on the value we can access its reference. Based on the value we can access its reference. That means we need to access this reference and this value, both we need. We need the reference and we need the value. Because if any error occurred, every error will have a status code and message. Showing code is not satisfied because general people cannot understand. Showing message is required. So I need to show to the developer that it is 404 and I need to explain him what does 404 means. In that case, I need to get both of them. I need to get the value and I need to get the reference. In that case, we use this technique. That means both value and reference are required. So here, both value and reference are required. One returns value, another reference. First one returns 404, the value. Second one returns not found, the reference name. Reference name. So that is important. Especially one of the main use of enums is we use the references also. So we configure the references and use the references, and we can access the reference by using value. We call usually this as reverse mapping, or we call it as reverse lookup. Reverse mapping or reverse lookup, right? So this is one regular question asked, and it is a very common thing actually. Wherever enums are there, it supports reverse mapping and reverse lookup, right? This is all the important points you need to know about enums. How to configure, how to define and use. Now in Angular, while learning and building applications, you will see situations where we use these enums, where we use the contracts, where we use the components and all, right? So these are all the important basic things you need to understand and you need to know while working with TypeScript. And one more point in TypeScript for Angular you need to know is about modules. You need to know about modules. I hope you already learned modules in JavaScript, right? You know modules, working with modules in JavaScript. If not, I will just give an idea here. What are the modules and how we define, right? Module is very common in JavaScript. When you learn JavaScript, you might have learned about modules, right? If not, then I will just give you an overview here. So because this is what very important for us. So moving forward, for building a large application, we need module. Technically, what is a module? What is a module? Actually, a module is collection of technically module is a collection of so many things. It is a collection of values, or you can say variables, functions, contracts. So templates, components, etc. A module is a collection of all these things. Module is a collection of all these things. So technically, module is a collection of variables, functions, contracts, templates, and components. So variables, functions, contracts, contracts are interfaces, templates are abstract classes, components are classes. So it is a collection of all these things. Generally, a modules are used. Modules are used in building. Modules are used in building a library for application. Modules are used in building a library for application. So we build library for application. So using module. What is the necessity of library? So library, what is the necessity of building a library? The necessity of building a library for application is, what is the purpose of library? Actually, library provides reusability, maintainability, testability. Library provides reusability, maintainability, and testability of components. Testability of components. That means we can create a library so that we can reuse, we can test, we can maintain easily. That means actually library is used in building an application. Library is used in building an application. That means by using the library, we build the application. So library comprises of contracts, services, templates, so many things. And what we do, we use the library. By using the library, we build the application. So technically, so many other things are there, you will see. And very important is JavaScript module systems. Module systems are, I hope you learned, in JavaScript there are so many module systems. JavaScript module systems, like we have module systems like CommonJS, that is a module system. Require.js, that is a module system. You have UMD, Universal Module Distribution, Universal Module Distribution. And you have AMD, that is Asynchronous Module Distribution. So many module systems are there. These are all various module systems. Wherever JavaScript is used with the module systems, these module systems need to be installed. We have to install these module systems to use. If these module systems are not installed, you cannot use modules. You cannot configure, you cannot use modules. So these are the module systems which are responsible for maintaining the modules and handling the modules. So in JavaScript, how you have used it. So here little different, because generally in JavaScript you might have learned link in script files and all those things. Here it is different. For example, I will show you your JavaScript module system, how it works, basic, right? So generally, when you learn JavaScript, in JavaScript module system, nothing but, suppose see, I am creating a new folder here by name library. I am creating a new folder by name library. In that library, I am adding a new file, that is some product.js. It is a JavaScript file. In this JavaScript file, we maintain some values. Suppose here we maintain some values here. So here we have var product name. Product name is some name. Okay. and we have a function, and function is print name, and it should return. So it should return product name. That's how we are configuring. So print name, so or say get name, it is returning the product name, whatever the product name is there. Now what I want to do is I need to use this function in various pages. I need to use this function in various pages, in various applications. Now I just created a function. It is maintained in a separate file. It is maintained in a separate file. We can have a class. In that class, we can have some methods. Now I want to use this. I want to use this in various projects, in various locations. And I hope you learned that whatever you declared inside this file scope, this is called module. This entire file is module. In that module, you can have variables, you can have functions, you can have classes, anything. Now I want to use this module in any page. Suppose I am adding a demo HTML page. In this page, I want to use that module, doc type HTML, head, title, some app. Here I want to use that module. Here I have a div. Now I want to use that module here. You can import script. So here I have to first link that file. What is that file? Script source is equal to /library in that product.js. After linking that, remember, whatever you declared inside this is not accessible outside. In order to make it accessible outside, we have to mark it as export. That means the function need to be marked as export, because every member in a module is only in the module scope. It's not accessible outside. If you want to access it outside and use it, then you have to mark it as export. So once you mark it as export, you can import and use it here. And if you want to import and use it, then you have to write a script. And here we need to use import. Import, what to import, from where to import. So we have to import the function. So this is the function name. What is it? Get name. We have to import get name from the library. So that means from the file. So what is the file? We have to import that from the file. From the file is what is it? Present product.js. That is where you have to access. And it is, remember, it is present in /library, right? It is present in library product.js. That is how we have to import. After importing, now this get name can be used. Remember, this is importing a module. It is importing a module. Then the script type must be module. Script type must be module. And this is the function which we need to print inside this now. We have to print inside the div. Whatever result is there inside the function must be printed. Then document.query selector, we access the div.inner HTML. We put the get name is a function. Get name is a function. We access and use it. This is your JavaScript. In JavaScript, your modules systems will work in this way. This is a basic thing about your JavaScript modules. How your JavaScript modules are handled and used. This is all you will learn in JavaScript. So here in TypeScript, how do we handle? We will see that, right? Same type of concept. In TypeScript, we will see. I hope people who learn JavaScript, they know all this technique because it is very important. These days, a developer cannot say that I learned JavaScript, but I don't know modules. It's like joke, very serious joke. Why? Because you can't say that I don't know modules of JavaScript. Because that is how we build application. Libraries are built in JavaScript based environment by using a module system. And we import and we implement and use it. So this is a very common thing of working with libraries and dealing with. But in TypeScript, you don't need to worry about all this. Let's see in a simple way how we can manage. Because I don't want to confuse you between JavaScript and TypeScript. If you haven't learned in JavaScript, learn. Later you will learn about it. I will not show you that here because that is lot of confusion for you. Just I will show you in TypeScript how we can manage. It's very simple. It's very easy and simple to understand in TypeScript. Let's do one thing. So let's build a library for our project. So library for our project. In this library, see what I am doing. I am again separating. I created a separate library folder and here I am defining one contracts. Okay. That is subfolder. So contracts is a folder. Okay. Again, select library, create another folder. Templates. Templates is another folder. Create another, select library, create another folder. Say components. Okay. And these three are the folders. We have contracts, we have templates, and we have components. So we will first go to contracts and let's create a contract. We are creating a contract. So I am creating a contract. The contract name, so that is product contract. Contract.ts. This is our TypeScript file. We are creating a contract, and how to create a contract already we know. So we will create interface. What is it? Product contract. Product contract. In that we have name, string, price, number. We know how do we define the contract, and quantity, number, total is a method which returns number, and print is a method which is void. Okay. This is the contract. Now remember, whatever you are designing in a TypeScript file, that TypeScript file is considered as a module. Now this is module. Now in this module, so remember, what is the module name? File name will be used as module name. File name will be used as module name. Now that means what is the module name? Product contract. In that module, what is the contract name? Product contract. We are having same name, contract. In a module, you can have any number of contracts. You can have any number of contracts, separate files you can maintain. It's not that there must be only one interface here. You can have a lot. As of now, I am just giving one. But anything you declared inside this module is not accessible outside. We have to mark it as export. We have to mark it as export. Otherwise, it is accessible only in this file, not accessible outside the file. There are so many things, export, default, so many. I will tell you one by one. First, I am marking as export because I need to access outside. Okay, good. Now let's go to contract is ready. What is the next step? After creating contracts, generally what we create? We create templates. Order you learned now, right? We will create templates. Let's go to templates now and create a new file. That is product template, product template.ts. Now in this product template, I want to design an abstract class called product template. Product template. this should implement the rules from a product contract. Previously, what we done when we learnt about this hierarchy, everything we maintained in one file only. You remembered everything we created in one file, interface, contracts, and everything in one file. But now the contract is in separate file. We have to use that contract here. Then what we have to do is we have to import in the curly brace from which location you have to define the file. So it is present in dot slash. In that we have what? Contracts. In the contracts we have product contract. That is the module name, right? From this module, which contract? We have to import that product contract here. After importing the product contract, now this contract can be used here. Now our abstract class must implements the product contract. Understood? If it is implementing product contract, as per the contract, we have to define all rules. That means I will define public. What is it? Name. And it is a string. And I will define some value into it. I will configure some value into it. So some Samsung TV like this. Another one, public price. It is a number and I am defining some value into it. And I am defining another one is quantity. Quantity is also number, some value into it. And another one is public. So that is total. Total is a method. Total is a method which needs implementation, right? So I am not implementing this method. It is a method with number. Then I have to mark it as abstract. I will mark it as abstract. Public, abstract, total. I will mark it as abstract, right? Because it need to be implemented. Another one, public, abstract, so print. So it needs to be implemented. We are configuring like this. This is the template. Now very important, this template is present in a separate file. And that file is what? Product template. Now it is not accessible outside. You can see it is not accessible outside. Then we have to mark it as export. That means every member that you defined in a module, if you want to access outside, it should be marked as export. That means now whatever the members inside this, they are accessible outside. Okay. Now next step, contract ready, template ready. Next we will go to where components. We will go to components. In components, we will add a new file. What is it? Product component. In product component .ts, here we will declare. Here we will create a class called product component. This product component have to implement the template. That means we have to import the template. What is the template? Product template. Product template from where? // from templates. It is product template. We have to import. And what this class have to do with the template? You know, na? It should implement or extend. Extend. It extends what? Product template. So component extends product template. Now in the extension here, you see actually in the template, I will not give any value. I will leave it empty. Okay. I will just leave empty values. I am not configuring anything. Now in this component, what I can do, I can initialize them. Name is Samsung TV. And we have price. Price is some value. Like this we configured. That means we are defining those values and quantity is equal to 2. And here total is a method which should return. So which should return this dot quantity into this dot price. and print is a method, so which should return console.log. It should print all details. Name is equal to this dot name, and price is equal to this dot price. We are configuring in this way, and here quantity is equal to this dot quantity, and total is equal to this dot quantity. Yeah, total is equal to so is equal to this dot total. Total is a method. All these options are defined. Now it is ready. Now this component we need to use in our project. Then we have to mark this component is also as export. Now we will create an application. You create an application here. This is library. Let's create a new folder called app. That is the app folder. In that app folder, I am creating a new file called suppose shopping dot, or in this app I am giving index.ts. Index.ts. Okay, here I want to just use that library. That means it's very simple. In your application, you have to import product component from the library. From library components, you have to import the product component. Just you have to create an TV object. It is of what type? Product component type. Through TV, we can print the details. That's it. Now your application is very simple. Your application contains only the component that you are trying to use, and the complete hierarchy of the component gets its functionality from a template gets the rules from a contract. That is how your library is built, and you are using that library in just building the application. Right now your application is simple. Now you have to run this application. That means let's go. It is not src, actually it is in app. In app folder, now we have tsc index.ts, and once you compile this, it uses in the backend dependency injection mechanism. Modules by default use dependency injection mechanism. They identify all dependencies that you linked up, and it will compile all of them. You see, I don't need to compile other files. I just compiled only index.ts, but you see in the library, it compiled all of them. The components are compiled, so into JavaScript files. The contracts are compiled, the templates are compiled. That means how it knows that it have to compile these also? By using a dependency injection mechanism. Modules use dependency injection mechanism. That means you can see here, I right click on the product component. There is an option, go to definition. Go to definition, it will take me to the component. This component is derived from template. Right click and go to definition. It gets to the template. This template is coming from a contract. Go to definition. It will get that contract. That means from here, everything is built. And observe now, I will run this tsc now node index.js. It will print the details. The name, the price, the quantity, and everything. This is a simple basic module system. In JavaScript also you will learn. Forget that. You learn in JavaScript. Here we just maintain separate files. In that we configured all the logic, and anything you defined in a module is not accessible outside. For that we have to use export, and in order to use in any application we have to import. Here some more points are there. While exporting, importing, some more technical points are there. You have to know those points. That means how do we export? How do we import So export rules, import rules, some points are there. If you know that your entire Angular will be like this only, your entire Angular will be using this module system. That means every day in Angular you have to work with these modules. That is the reason you need to be perfect in this. That we'll see in next session. So in next session, I will give you the rules of module system. With that, we will finish the module. And one more topic is there, namespace. Namespace and module, two topics are there. Then we finish with this concept, right? Then we will start Angular now. So we will start working with Angular. After we finish one more session, we will finish module and namespace. Then we will go into the concept of Angular, right? And tomorrow, no session. On the eve of Ramzan, right? Tomorrow is holiday. So all classes will not be there. Entire institute will be off, right?